My name is Fausia, and I will be delivering a counselling skills presentation. And then we're going to start off with some ground rules today. So, I want everyone to kind of throw some ground rules to begin with.
We've got to respect each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's in this room doesn't really go out the room.
That's what I was going to say.
Confidentiality.
Keep it private.
Okay.
And only keep it to ourselves.
Anyone else?
Treat everybody with respect.
Okay. Okay. So some of the things that I'm going to go through is just be mindful of other people. Just listen. Show that you care, and just be careful of your behavior and your comments as well, because we're obviously here in a safe place. We're discussing a topic, and some people may be vulnerable. It could bring up a lot of past experiences or anything that may be happening in your present situation. If you need a moment and you need to walk out, please help yourself. And just listen, switch your phones off, and just, show respect, okay?
Always.
So, I'm going to start off with, what is counselling? What is everyone's understanding around counselling? Does anyone know?
Advice.
Advice? That's, yes. Anyone else?
I can speak that because when I did counselling, which I did 2 years ago, from a place restaurant called the Leisure Trust,
Okay.
and I seen one for 7 weeks because of the problems I was having then.
Okay. So you've had some counselling?
Yes.
Okay. And what was your experience like?
How can I say, a bit nervous at the start.
Okay.
But once I go into the session every Monday, it was done with a place that's now in town.
Okay.
They got the support from up to the Centre in Jersey on Monday afternoon
Okay.
for an hour. And I thought, I didn't know that there for a lot of because I was getting used to it.
So you've had some counselling. Anyone else had any counselling? Why do people have counselling? Do we know?
Well, if you're going through a situation, sometimes you need to have a listening ear, and somebody who can actually give you advice on how to move on from that situation, and just help you, because sometimes you just can't move on without that listening ear and that help and advice.
Okay. So you go to someone because you want to be heard. You want someone to listen to you. What kind of things promote that? What kind of things help that relationship? Why would you go back?
Why would I go back? I mean, I've not been to a counselling. Unfortunately, I go to a psychiatrist many years ago, as I say, counselling, it would be so as you can move. I mean, my current situation, it's hit me, it's made me go rock bottom, and it's upset me. And basically, I was getting that my confidence was okay, but now I've got no confidence in myself.
Okay. So it's about you. So basically, it's about listening. But what are the things that you look for in someone who's listening to you? Because you're going to someone who, is a qualified counsellor. However, you don't know this person, you've not met this person before, and you're opening up about a lot of things in your life. So the things that we mainly look for is empathy, don't we? Somebody who can trust us, don't judge us for who we are, and show that they care. And this could be done either through their body language, through their, just physically, nods, or, just paying attention, listening closely, or, the eye contact. That gives you that impression, doesn't it, that you're being heard. Because if you went in and you sat there, you spoke to them, and they just kind of did their own thing, you wouldn't feel comfortable, would you? So it's about someone paying that close attention and listening to some of the distress that you're going through. Okay, so the main counselling skills that we've just discussed is listening, empathy, being non-judgmental, positive body language. Can anyone think of anything else?
Well, for me, it started off with negative body language
Okay.
because of the circumstances I was under. But in the end, the lady managed to turn it round to be more positive.
More positive.
Yeah.
So with a good, someone who's very good at their job, good counselling skills, they will turn that negativity into positive and build a good rapport with you.
Yes.
Okay? So if we were to, if you look at counselling skills and their application, so counselling skills can be applied in various contexts. They can be used with clients who may suffer from issues such as mental health or domestic violence. So I'm going to be using today 2 examples which are highly popular really. Got one which is mental health and how counselling skills are actually applied. Counselling skills can be used in day-to-day life as well, with your family, with your children. As a parent, we use counselling skills because sometimes we listen to what our children have to say because they look up to us. There is a power imbalance because obviously you're a parent and they look up to you and they look up for advice if they're having difficulty in school or if they're having any trouble in their own personal lives. They want to talk to someone and you might be, counselling your children. Then we could be using counselling skills with our friends. Sometimes your friends can approach you, offload, and they may need a shoulder whether you to cry on or some advice. So you're actually applying counselling skills in your, in your private life as well. You could be advising your siblings. You could be talking to colleagues if they're having difficult time with their employment or if they have a bereavement in the family and they're unable to cope. And you're just you're empathizing, you're listening, and you're directing them into getting further support. That is all part of counselling. So the 2 topics that I've picked up today are mental health and domestic violence. Okay? Now these are the issues which are quite common nowadays. Mental health is literally, many people suffer from mental health. And there has been a lot of stigma around mental health, but now because the world is a lot more educated, people are embracing that, we're all different, we could all, be going through lots of different illnesses, health conditions, and people are more accepting. So, we're moving on to counselling skills in health and well-being. In my particular role, we use counselling skills all the time as well. So we use them when we actually carry out assessments because that's the initial stage where we build a rapport with our clients. So when we actually call you for a one-to-one, we have to pay very close attention to some of the issues that you may be going through, some of the stresses, some of the triggers, and how can we manage them, how do we actually signpost you. So that's all part of the counselling skills. So good listening, positive responses, and non-judgmental behaviour are all key counselling, skills that are used within our roles. So as a wellbeing officer, when I actually run these drop-in sessions, and if you come in and you've got a particular issue and you want to talk to me and you find that I'm not approachable, you will seek help somewhere else. So I won't be able to offer you, what you're looking for. And that's when we tend to lose a good service. So for a good service, what we need is just to make sure that our clients are, their needs are fulfilled. We make sure that we deliver a good service. Counselling skills are applied throughout the health and wellbeing service by the qualified counsellors, wellbeing officers, and volunteers. So volunteers, if I'm not running the session and you have a volunteer who's running the session and you feel that you need to offload, you need to speak to someone, you can always speak to a volunteer as well, as long as you feel comfortable to do that. We also need to embrace that we're all different, we come from different cultural backgrounds, different religions, and we need to respect each other because we all are, you know, we're all together because we want to obviously make positive changes. They can be used to build a good rapport with clients, improve the well-being of clients, and gain outcomes. Now, if you didn't feel comfortable to disclose your personal information, you didn't feel comfortable, you didn't feel safe in a place to talk to myself or a colleague of mine, or you know, with your health and well-being officer or a qualified counsellor, you wouldn't be able to achieve, to move on. So to be able to get outcomes and to move on, we need to obviously create a positive, safe and confidential environment where people feel that they actually can discuss their personal problems. Okay, any questions so far? Do people agree?
That you just said is happening with the wellbeing coach Rebecca I've got here. Because I can go to one of her sessions one-to-one and feel comfortable talking about the problems that I've got, and it makes me feel better. That's what it's all about, right?
Brilliant.
No, I'm just going to say the truth. You can't be shocked for saying the truth and something nice and something positive. I'm respectful.
So, mental health and counselling. Counselling is used to treat several mental health disorders such as anxiety and depression, panic attacks, bipolar disorder, OCD. Do we know what OCD is? Obsessive compulsive disorder.
Exactly, it's one of the parts. When I come in next week, within that time for that, put some background about that from the course I've done last week.
Okay.
With depression.
Okay, brilliant. Okay. And then we've got PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, schizophrenia, psychosis. So those all are mental health disorders. Please don't get confused by all of those terms. You know, but I mean, mental health can affect anyone. But counselling is talking therapies they use widely to treat, because often people experiencing mental health may be isolated, depressed, because they have no one to talk to. So they, you know, that's where counselling skills are used, because they feel there's a lot of stigma around mental health. A lot of people feel that people are judging them, they're not being heard. So by offering them a safe environment and safe intervention through counselling, they're able to open up and discuss their issues with their counsellor, their well-being officer, or whoever's their link worker, whoever's supporting them. So the technique that's used to actually used in counselling for mental health is CBT. CBT is cognitive behavioural therapy. So basically it's used to treat mental health issues. How many people have heard about CBT? How many of you have heard of CBT? Okay.
It seems like I've been going on the course at Crisis since January.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. So CBT helps individuals to identify their issues and negative thoughts. So, for instance, if there was someone who was hearing voices, and the voices was asking them to do something to harm themselves. So, by applying the CBT, what we're trying to do is, or the counsellor is trying to do, is let the client identify the negative voice or negative thought behavior pattern, so they can distinguish this is a negative thought and we not to react or not to act upon that thought. Because a lot of people who may be suffering from voices, if they had a negative voice who asked them to actually, you know, self-harm, because otherwise you will, you will get punished. So they tend to follow their voices, listen to their voices. So that's just an example. So CBT helps individuals to identify their issues and negative thoughts. It's about their thoughts. What are they actually thinking? Identify behaviors and enable you to change them in the future, and learn coping skills. So how do you actually cope? So obviously if you're going to act upon your your thoughts, that will impact your behavior, and if you're having a negative behavior, there will be negative outcomes. So these techniques help people to identify their negative behavior and find coping skills. It also helps you to look back at your past behavior and its impact on you. So what it does is it lets you identify where you've, because sometimes it's very difficult for people to actually identify their thoughts. So if you've done something for years, it'll be very difficult for you to actually move on from that thought. So what you could do is, how we compare that is by comparing your past. So if your counsellor said to you, okay, well, this is what you've been thinking and these have been the outcomes because of your negative behavior or the behavior that was triggered by your negative thoughts, and the outcomes were negative also. But by comparing to change of thoughts with change of behavior will actually create positive environment, and compare the both, that's when individuals begin to see actually negative thoughts have triggered negative behavior with bad outcomes, but positive behavior will have positive outcomes, and that's when people learn techniques how to actually apply that particular approach to change their thinking patterns, okay, and behavior. So example, I'll put an example, sleep problem. CBT helps individuals to learn thoughts that don't help them sleep and change them. So this is a wide technique used for a lot of people who may have sleeping problems. So they, by learning what thoughts keep them awake and trying to change those thoughts, you can improve your sleeping patterns. Is that okay? Any questions so far?
And I can relate to that because I do have a sleep problem.
Okay.
I've had it for 8 years, but I used to do it before.
Okay.
We used to bang the door every night. And
Okay.
then you lose your sleep pattern. And it's hard to get it back, isn't it?
Okay, so have you managed to change that?
Well, I have been seeing my doctor about that.
Okay.
I don't take medication for it though. Because it can make it worse getting up in the morning. Or get somewhere to get up. Manage to twice to say.
Sleeping
So have you
tablets.
have you spoken to your to a counsellor or anyone where you think that
Well,
you want
I'm not
talking therapies? That might be something you could discuss with Rebecca, and maybe
yes.
we could make a referral.
Yeah, that would be a good stepping stone.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
There
Brilliant.
might be something behind it, because, I've just recently discovered that I've got sleep apnea. Now, I'm not saying that you have, but sometimes, for instance, we went to a seminar on sleep disorders, including sleep apnea and insomnia, and there's sometimes things behind it, so sometimes you need to see a doctor to get referred to a consultant.
I have been in contact with my doctor, but don't seem to be doing anything.
Getting up too early every morning for work.
I have that.
But she in a habit of getting up at 6.
I used to work nights.
Oh.
Did many years ago. I used to work nights, but
Yeah, different shift.
There could be medical. So
yeah, that's what I'm
first,
saying.
I think first, if you feel that you are experiencing any of those problems, it's not always talking therapies. First, you need to explore that with your GP. There might be underlying health or medical issues. Once you tackle that and your GP has established what is causing it, that's when we can actually explore this. But sometimes you might get medication and you might get counselling, because they both can work effectively together. Okay? All right. Okay, so
Only once a month.
another example that I've used is domestic violence and counselling. Domestic violence. What do we know about domestic violence?
Horrible.
Well,
Horrible. Let's get some thoughts on that.
well, it's obviously, it can be either women being attacked by their partner, stroke husband, or it can actually be, which is less reported, the men being attacked by their wives or partner, and it can be various extremes from It can be verbal,
Yeah.
putting them down, to
Yeah.
physically attacking. They've even killed their partners in the end.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So domestic violence could be physical, emotional, it could be sexual
Yeah.
abuse from either partners. Okay, because a lot more incidents are being reported by males as well in current years. It has the stats are showing that it has improved. The reporting has improved
Yeah.
for men in the recent years than it was maybe 10 years ago. So domestic violence involves physical, emotional and sexual abuse which can impact individuals' confidence and decision-making ability. If you have been abused for years, that will obviously, depending on what kind of abuse was used, because some people, I've supported individuals who have been, who haven't been out the door for 10 years and lost complete confidence to even get out to the, local shop or even step outside their house. So sometimes it impacts, in majority of cases, it can impact your decision making because you feel vulnerable. You feel, you lose that self-confidence of, you're being capable. You think that I might not be able to make a decision, or the decision I might make is wrong, because you lose that trust within yourself as well. So it lowers your self-esteem. So when you have lower self-esteem, can we make decisions? We
No.
can't, because we just don't value our own opinions or our decisions. So an ability to build new relationships, because if you have been a victim of domestic violence, that would just lower your morale. You just don't want to know anyone. You don't want to trust people. You just want to isolate yourself at times. So coming out of domestic violence can make you feel sad. So that's a feeling that's, that you can be having very strongly. You could feel guilty that I should have actually stayed in a relationship, because often, especially if you've got a different, like if you're from ethnic minority groups, and people often, there's a lot of family emotions involved, and they will say to you that, oh, you can't be leaving, you can't be going and living in hotels or maisonettes and taking your children out and depriving them from their father or mother, and this is not right, and sometimes it's about guilt about breaking families, and all sorts of things. Overwhelmed, because when you leave your own comfort zone, it's overwhelming, isn't it? Because you don't know where you're going to be thrown, which shelter home you might be going to, is there any adequate childcare? There's lots of different emotions running through your head. So, and angry with the fact that, I've lost all of this. It wasn't my fault. Why is it happening to me? So you can suffer flashbacks, PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, and physical injuries. Flashbacks, often people tend to get panic attacks, flashbacks, because of the traumatic experiences that they've actually been through. So, counselling. Counselling, again, is very useful in building that trust in for that individual, so they can work on building their self-esteem, their trust. So one of the approaches that's used in this counselling therapy, is called person-centered therapy. Person-centered, the word itself describes that it's more focused around the individual. So it's about positivity, creating that positive, safe environment for that individual so they can openly discuss their issues. So counsellors can help you recognize signs of abuse, help you understand your own behaviors, thinking. They can apply several tools and techniques to support you. Assertiveness is one of them. You've got grounding. Personal-centered therapy and family therapy are useful approaches, as these encourage acceptance, healing, and moving on. So, but basically, the counsellor, when the counsellor is talking to this individual, they kind of show a lot of congruence. They show a lot of empathy. They just encourage that it's okay, to feel the way you're feeling. So, you know, you might have outbursts of anger or emotions, but it's okay to feel that way because you are human and you have been through quite a lot. So they create that positive environment for you to be able to gain your self-esteem. Okay. By using person-centered therapy, empathy, warmth, and genuineness helps the relationship grow. So by being genuine, accepting for whatever background, whatever religion, or whatever you know, troubles and issues that they've come, you know, through, just accepting them for who they are, accepting that it's okay to feel the way they're feeling. You create a positive environment for them, and that's how you. So this is one of the therapies that's applied. There may be some issues in counselling as well. Sometimes counselling can pose challenges, especially when dealing with certain groups. So some people are they can identify that I actually need to speak to someone. You know, they can speak to their well-being officer, the link worker, or the support worker and ask for some support. However, there might be some vulnerable groups out there that are reluctant to actually identify what kind of support they may need. For example, someone who may suffer from personality disorder may think that the therapist is unable to do anything for them. So if you've got mental health disorder where you've got personality as your diagnosis with personality disorder, like borderline personality disorder, sometimes those individuals might not be able to relate. They might think, oh, well, nothing can be done. There won't be no changes, so I don't want to take up counselling. Okay? A young person who is from a minority background and caring for parents with language barriers and taking up lots of responsibility may view things differently. That's just an example that I gave here because, for instance, say if a child is in a school, a young child who's caring and is from an ethnic minority and he's the main translator or she is the main translator for the family, caring while she is at home. Can you imagine how many things are going on in their life already? So they're translating, they're actually dealing with you know, a lot of responsibilities in the at home. How will they view counselling? What, you know, will they be able to engage? You know, sometimes there's issues like that, you know, where, or someone with learning disabilities, that's another example. They might think, okay, well, you know, they might not be able to kind of see the difference because of the, you know, the disability. Okay. There's boundaries as well, which are highly crucial in counselling. So when you do go to for your sessions in counselling, the counsellor normally clarifies the contract, which includes the number of sessions, the length of sessions, any referrals that they may need to make to any specialist agencies if they feel that their service is not meeting your needs and you might need a more specialist kind of service. So they may be able to refer you on. So that's part of their contract as well. And they should actually clarify all of that with you on your first session. And there should be a clear contract of your understanding, and boundaries should actually be highlighted. So boundaries can be breached at times. There are times when confidentiality might have to be breached. For instance, you go to a counsellor and you tell them that you are having, you know, you've got mental health. Well, they're already aware that you have mental health problems, but you actually disclose them that, you know, you're very angry and you're planning to harm someone or harm yourself. In that instance, they have to disclose that information, and they need to have a clear contract with you to say that actually there might be instances where we might have to breach confidentiality and share this information with third party, which could be police, could be social services, for the safety of the individual. So you've got dual relationships. Dual relationships, basically, this is when you know, individuals are having relationships with the counsellors, so that can reach the boundaries as well. So it's just being mindful of all of that. So is there any, I mean, before I move on to referrals, is there anything else that people want to?
You just mentioned, with anybody associated with, any that's in tutor, and to any female, the boundary line.
Yes. Because it's a helping relationship and it could be misunderstood. But then it's about being assertive. It's about being assertive by the counsellors or your link worker, support worker, whoever you're having those one-to-one sessions with, just to make sure that they are fully aware and they're assertive in their roles. And if you feel that there is breach going on, if you suspect anything, please do feel that that you're obliged to actually report that to. If it's a friend who's disclosed it to you, you report it to whoever it may concern, because obviously that could cause problems in the future. Okay?
That's why I said the boundary line. Being meet in the middle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Respect. Respect to the other person on the other side.
Absolutely. And there's other things as well. Gifts, sometimes people buying lots of expensive gifts for their counsellors, or or the counsellor is doing something, which is inappropriate, meeting the client in their own homes, in maybe on the weekends and inappropriate antisocial hours. Those are the kind of things that set alarms, and we need to be mindful of them. Now, referrals. This is so. If there is anyone who may need to speak to someone, feels that I am actually feeling very low or feeling I need to actually speak to someone, then please come to me, and what we can do is we can have a one-to-one and we will refer you. We have a counselling service, and we can refer you into this. The counselling service is based on our extra care scheme, and it's a safe environment. It's a confidential room where you will be, having the sessions will be held, and we have a qualified counsellor who will be delivering this session for you, and your information is stored in most appropriate confidential places and shared with your consent, unless obviously there is any of those risks that we identified earlier.
Sorry to interrupt you, lady.
Absolutely. Have a word with your own support worker, or if you'd like to come and speak to me, we will definitely speak about that. Now there are other counselling services also available. We have got New Heights that offer domestic violence counselling, and they have 24 sessions. We also have cruise counselling, with if anyone has suffered from bereavement and needs any support, then we can always make referrals to cruise for you. There's Healthy Minds. We can always refer you to Healthy Minds as well. So please feel free to come and have a chat with me after. Does anybody want to add anything else on before I finish? Are we all done? Are we all happy with this?
Absolutely.
Any questions so far? You sure?
Well, I've been through the situation myself before, in different times, as I say. Mine started when I had to go years ago to be assessed to go back to work, and what they'd done to me.
Okay.
But I did take them to court.
Okay. And what was the outcome?
I won.
Okay.
Because I told the truth and they told a pack of lies about me.
Sorry, didn't mean to laugh. I'm not being disrespectful.
I know what you mean.
That's exactly what they do with me. They put a pack of lies. I mean, my son, even though our son, I should say, even though he was there in the room with us, he wouldn't be allowed to be a witness. I don't think, because he's not our son. He's a relative.
Yeah.
And he actually witnessed the things he did, the lies.
Absolutely. You've got to go through it.
Sorry, I don't know how she can sleep at night.
I had a female as well.
Yeah.
She was the most horrible person I ever met in my life. I told her that to her face as well.
She's probably actually, this lady that I saw, she's probably seen quite a few since then and probably done a lot of the same things.
It's got worse.
Because, I mean, she didn't actually even look at me, give me eye contact or anything like that.
I always do that.
I'll show you
I always
that.
show eye contact.
Thank you very much. Sorry, what did you want to say anything?
Yeah, before you conclude, lady, you've got to have eye contact with people in a positive way, if you know what I mean, and respect. And I've been brought up on that
Absolutely.
when I was a child. There's not enough respect in the world these days.
You would want to treat people the way you would like to be treated.
That's
That's
right.
true.
Yeah.
Because I mean, how about if it was their mother or auntie or whoever, a relative of theirs, wouldn't they want them treated with that respect? Well, sure they would.
And also, when you're going to flyby first, each person take somebody with you to speak on your behalf.
Okay, we'll have a discussion around that in a minute. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening and participating in this session for me.
I've got some new
Thank
outcomes.
you.
I'm going to have a word.
Well, I'm